The Sheaffer Imperial is a collection of fountain pens that was produced in the 1960s and 70s. They were offered in a wide variety of colors and finishes, and they were offered with several different styles of nibs, as well as a touchdown and a cartridge converter system. The pen in front of us was produced in 1963, and it's called the Lifetime. The bottom finial is squared off, and it features ribs in a concentric circle. The top finial is also squared off, and it has a slight conical shape. We then have a clip, which is fairly short. It has a very consistent profile with a white dot at the top and Lifetime at the bottom. It is a spring-loaded clip, which makes it very springy and functional. The cap transitions to a rounded portion in the middle, and it's straight all the way down. At the bottom, we have an engraving with gold lettering that says Sheaffer's Lifetime, Made in USA. The cap band has a slight conical shape, and it's free of any markings. And then there's a slight step down to the barrel. The cap pulls off to reveal a very beautiful diamond-shaped inlaid nib. It says Sheaffer's Lifetime 14K, an R for copyright, and a USA at the bottom. And on the back we have a black plastic feed. There's no marking for the size of the tipping material, but the seller that I purchased this from said it was advertised as a medium. The section then has a tapering shape to a metal band with 3 little nubs that are there to hold the cap in place. The barrel then starts with an engraving that says Sheaffer's, Made in USA. The barrel has a gradual taper down to that squared off finial. In the hand, the pen is a nice length. It's lightweight, but very well balanced. And because of the shape of that section, you can hold it in many different locations. The cap posts securely and deeply. It adds some nice heft to the pen, and it transfers the balance of the pen to about the crook of my hand. So it's a very comfortable pen to use posted. In terms of size comparisons, here's the Sheaffer Imperial, a typical Pilot G2 rollerball pen, and your standard Sharpie. Before we get into the disassembly of the Sheaffer Imperial, I wanted to take a moment here to compare it with a few other vintage fountain pens. Up top, we have the Sheaffer Targa, which is perhaps the most popular vintage model that Sheaffer ever made. And down below, we have another pen from the 1960s. This is the Parker 45. In their cap forms, the 3 pens are about the same length. The Parker 45 is just a little bit longer than the rest. Both of the Sheaffers feature white dots towards the top, which symbolizes a lifetime warranty and high quality. The Sheaffer Imperial is the only pen that has a spring-loaded clip. The other 2 have bent metal clips. The Targa has a shape that is mostly cylindrical with a very slight taper that starts at the top finial and ends at the bottom finial. The Imperial has a more traditional fountain pen shape that has a cap larger than the pen body. And the Parker 45 has a torpedo shape that has narrow end finials that meet towards the center of the pen. Let's take a look at these pens with their caps removed. All pens have caps that pull off, and uncapped, the Parker 45 is the longest pen by far. The Imperial is just a little bit shorter than the Targa. The Parker 45 features a semi-hooded nib. It was offered in both gold and stainless steel. The Imperial, as I mentioned, is offered with a wide variety of different types of nibs. This one is the inlaid 14 karat gold nib, and that one is very similar to what we see on the Targa. The Parker 45 has a section that tapers back to a metal band that has a step up to the barrel. The Imperial has a section that tapers back and then it's flush with the barrel. And the Targa has a section that also tapers back, but then it features a step up to the barrel. Let's take a look at these pens with their caps posted. All caps post deeply and securely. When it's posted, the Imperial is the shortest pen, followed closely by the Parker 45, and the Targa is significantly longer than the other 2 pens. Disassembling the Sheaffer Imperial is pretty limited. The cap pulls off. And if we take a look inside, we can see there isn't a cap liner, so there's nothing really to disassemble with this cap. I would just clean it by running it under warm water. The section unscrews from the barrel, and that's it for the barrel. And then there isn't really a way to disassemble this section. For cleaning and maintenance, I would just soak this in warm water or attach a bulb syringe to this nipple at the end to force water in and out of the section. At this point, the pen is disassembled. In order to reassemble, we're going to grab our barrel and our section, screw them in place, followed by our cap. And now we're ready to ink up. Inking up the Sheaffer Imperial Lifetime, unfortunately, due to the shape of this barrel, we aren't able to fit any modern Sheaffer converters. So you have to resort to Sheaffer cartridges, which luckily are the same as international short cartridges. And I've eyedropper filled this one with Waterman Intense Black, which is a nicely saturated black ink that's easy to clean up with water, so it's very safe to use on vintage pens. Cap pulls off, and the section unscrews from the barrel. Simply insert the top of the cartridge into the bottom of the section, and then reattach your barrel and your cap. We'll let this pen rest for a few moments, and then we should be ready to write. Okay, writing with the Sheaffer Imperial Lifetime. Cap pulls off, and I am going to post it. And today we are writing with a 14 karat gold inlaid nib, and it was advertised as a medium. And it is a beautifully tuned nib. It's smooth with just a hair of feedback, a very nice, reliable writer with good flow. Our ink, again, is Waterman Intense Black. For flex, I'm going to turn the page. Not a flex nib, but if you push it, you can get a little bit of line variation. And for reverse writing, very scratchy. You can kind of feel it tearing up the page, but the feed did keep up decently. So, I mean, if you were in a pinch for a thinner line, you could reverse write it, but kind of at the sacrifice of your writing experience. So not something I would recommend. So what do I think of the Sheaffer Imperial Lifetime? I really like this pen. I think it has a nice, classic, understated design, and one of my favorite vintage pens is the Targa. To me, this is kind of the ergonomic version of that pen. It's lightweight, it has a section that smoothly transitions to the barrel without any step-ups, and in the hand, it's just a joy to hold. Personally, I also prefer having this pen posted, which it posts beautifully, and it makes for a nicely comfortable, decent weighted pen that's very well balanced. I also really like the squared off end finials. I think that that's a nice touch, and it feels nice in the hand to just rub your fingers over those transition lines. As I mentioned, it reminds me a lot of the Sheaffer Targa, and that's primarily because of this diamond-shaped inlaid nib. And this nib is not only stunning to look at, but a real joy to write with. It has a little bit of bounce, it's very smooth, and has excellent ink flow. I also really like the fact that it accepts international short cartridges. That means that you have a pretty wide selection of ink options, and it should be very easy to clean and maintain. But also, this is probably one of my biggest gripes with this pen. I wish that you could fit a converter so that it would be easier to fill up ink from a bottle. Also, the way that this cartridge secures onto the section kind of concerns me, since it doesn't have anything that secures it in place around the cartridge. The cartridge is only held in place by this little pipe at the end. Another issue that I have with this pen is the nib. Even though, like I said, I really love this nib, it also concerns me that it's not removable. So if I were to try and tune this nib and that tuning went awry, unfortunately, I would have to scrap either the entire pen or at the very least the section. And that's kind of disappointing. Another nitpick that I have with this pen is the way that the cap secures in place. You see, it's held in place by these little nubs that are at the bottom of the section. And those nubs first contact the cap at the bottom. And then you push it in place, and then they click in a little rail that's inside this cap. And while there's nothing wrong with that mechanism, it just doesn't quite feel finished. It feels a little clunky. So I wish that was something that Sheaffer maybe spent a little bit more time on. But with that being said, the cap is secured pretty well, and it does keep the nib wet for multiple weeks without any dryouts. And then I would say probably the last nitpick that I have for this pen is the branding that was used. The engraved lettering with the gold fill just looks a little bit unfinished. I'm not quite sure why they decided to do that. Personally, I would have preferred if they had a marking on this metal band instead. But with all that being said, I really do enjoy this pen. It's a very lightweight and comfortable pen to hold in the hand, one that I could easily use for many pages of writing. And because it does take that cartridge, you can easily fill this up with any ink just by using an eyedropper. So that just leaves me to say, thank you for watching.